Regez coldly commands his wife to stay out of his sight and perform only her duties as his spouse. Asha stares back with an intense and unreadable expression as she silently notes how unpleasant he is. Regez walks away in disgust while Asha internally vows to make her sweet husband watch her change her own story. Driven by a newfound will, she prepares to stop loving him and change her fate for good. Flashbacks reveal the beginning of their political marriage where Regez once promised to love her despite the circumstances. Asha vividly remembers the kind eyes and gentle smile Regez had when he asked her to get along. The memory of those better days lingers even as she faces the harsh reality of the present. She sits at a desk, surrounded by the weight of her current life and responsibilities. 2 years into the marriage, Asha finds herself exhausted as mountains of paperwork pile up every single day. Swamped with endless chores and the duties of the Ludok family, she feels treated more like a servant than a wife. After Regez was chosen as the Queen's Guard Knight, he began to avoid Asha entirely. In a cruel encounter, Regez tells Asha directly that she has no charm as a woman. He sneers that she is worth nothing and should work hard just to avoid being thrown away. Asha reflects on how her husband belittles her every single moment they speak. Despite his abuse, she continues to support him and assumes he is merely exhausted from guarding the Queen. She holds on to a desperate hope that he will eventually turn back to her someday. When Regez arrives home early, Asha frantically tries to apologize for her messy appearance while doing chores. Regez dismisses her with pure vitriol, telling her she is disgusting and should not even speak to him. Asha can only offer a soft apology as she bears the weight of his constant rejection. A maid rudely interrupts her to complain that the back door is dirty. The other servants gossip and mock her, acknowledging that the treatment she receives is too much. Asha convinces herself she must stay because she has nowhere else to go besides this house. She tells herself that if she keeps trying, things will surely change for the better. Her attention is suddenly drawn to a mysterious book she discovers. An anonymous message instructs the madam of the Ludok household to search her husband's room. She finds a medical text that seems out of place, written in the language of her country. Asha is struck by a sudden realization and wonders why she knows the Japanese language. Guided by the mysterious message, she enters her husband's room and discovers a hidden envelope. To her horror, she finds a collection of passionate love letters addressed to Regez. One letter explicitly states that the sender's feelings are for Regez and not for His Majesty. The shock of the discovery leaves Asha frozen and trembling. The Queen herself wrote the letters, begging Regez to let his love belong only to her and not his wife. Tears stream down Asha's face as she cries out in her mind, asking why Regez would do this. She realizes the mysterious book and message were intended to show her this devastating truth. As her world shatters, a surge of lost memories begins to flood back into her mind. Asha fully remembers her previous life as a Japanese woman. She realizes she is living inside the plot of a novel she once read called Forbidden Love. The story centers on the forbidden romance between Queen Safra and the married captain of the Royal Guards. In the original storyline, Asha's character was a jealous wife who was executed for plotting the Queen's assassination. Seeing a guillotine in her mind's eye, she realizes she will be killed if the story follows its original path. She recalls her past life self thinking that the true love between Regez and the Queen was incredibly selfish. The Queen's Guard Knight must be married, meaning Regez only used Asha as a tool for his own convenience. Asha detects the Queen's specific scent lingering on the love letters Regez kept. The scent confirms the affair, leaving Asha with the painful realization that she was merely a pawn. At dinner, Regez continues his abuse by calling her worth less than a servant and accusing her of being idle. He leans in close, asking if she is trying to disgrace his position as the Queen's Guard Knight. Fed up with being used, Asha decides she would rather divorce him and leave immediately. She knows reporting the affair is useless because the Queen's power would seal any accusations as lies. Despite the odds, Asha reveals that she has a hidden trump card to play. She prepares her counterattack, vowing to act once the proper conditions are met in 3 years. Betting her entire fate on this plan, she resolves to change the story once and for all. 3 years pass, and the day finally arrives for Asha to confront Regez about their divorce. A maid aggressively orders Asha to hurry up and clear the table. With a chillingly polite demeanor, Asha mocks the maid's lack of manners. She suddenly swings a plate of food, startling the arrogant servant. Asha towers over the trembling maid, noting how jumpy she has become. As other servants rush in to see the commotion, Asha calmly claims her hand simply slipped. Asha authoritatively announces that all the servants are dismissed and must leave at once. The servants threaten to report her to the master, but Asha tells them their threats are useless. She produces the updated employment contract showing that she is now their sole employer. Asha reveals she has kept a meticulous record of every insult they directed toward her over the years. She dares them to call Regis if they are unhappy, knowing she holds the legal upper hand. With a triumphant smile, she tells them to make sure Regis knows she is filing for divorce. Asha begins tearing up the household paperwork as an old man watches in utter shock. She remains focused and cold, noting that everything is finally going according to her plan. Asha declares that the fun is only beginning and invites the staff to try and stop her. She prepares for the next phase of her plan involving external allies. Representatives from the Merit Trading House arrive at the mansion exactly as she planned. Asha warmly welcomes Mr. Merit while his men begin moving furniture out of the house. She is pleased to learn the appraisal of the goods amounts to gold coins. With the money secured, she prepares for the final confrontation. Regis bursts into the room and screams at Asha, demanding to know what she is doing. Asha coolly informs him that she sold the furniture and fired the servants without needing his permission. She explains that she bought the furniture with her own funds and is the legal employer of the staff. When he asks where she got the money, she cites the profits from a secret side business. Regis loses his temper completely and tells her not to be ridiculous. He draws his weapon and threatens to cut her down with his sword if she continues to act out. Regis grinds his teeth in a blind rage while Asha remains unfazed by his blade. Asha stands her ground and tells him she is only exercising her lawful rights. She mocks him for threatening a defenseless woman who cannot fight back. Regis makes a move with the sword, but Asha does not flinch. She dares him to hurry up and kill her, calling him a terrible man who can only resort to violence. Asha taunts him to strike her down and live with the permanent shame of what he's done. Regis trembles with fury, unable to believe she is serious or that she understands her position. Asha senses that the moment she has waited 3 long years for is finally here. She prepares herself to hear the words that will finally break their bond. Regis screams that he is fine with the divorce, claiming she will be the one in trouble with no one to rely on. With a beaming, triumphant smile, Asha tells him she has been waiting for those very words. She immediately hands him the divorce application and demands he fill it out quickly. Asha dismisses his warnings of regret, stating she has already had more than her share of it. Asha reflects on the beginning of her journey, acknowledging that the pivotal moment was marrying Regis. Trapped in a moment of intense physical and emotional strain, Regis gasps for air while desperately pleading for more time to process the situation. Asha holds up a sealed envelope, pointedly asking if this specific item is the true cause of his hesitation. Regis reacts with a look of pure shock and horror, his eyes widening as he realizes the magnitude of what she has discovered. With a chillingly calm gaze, Asha offers to read the contents of the lovely letter aloud to him. She recites the scandalous words where the queen forbids Regis from touching his miserable wife and confesses that her heart belongs only to him. Asha lets out a dark chuckle, mocking the letter's description of her as a miserable wife while the power dynamic shifts entirely in her favor. Standing over the trembling Regis, she looks down with disdain and asks which of them is truly the miserable one in their current situation. Asha delivers a cold ultimatum. He must grant her a divorce immediately or she will deliver the incriminating letter directly to the palace. Terrified of the consequences, Regis shouts that he will comply with her demands as long as she returns the evidence to him. Asha smiles serenely, agreeing to return only the letter once the terms of their separation are met. She turns to leave the room, dismissing Regis's desperate plea for her to reconsider the love she once sought from him. With absolute resolve, Asha declares that she has no lingering attachment to a marriage that has turned into a graveyard. Regis tries to undermine her confidence, questioning how she expects to survive alone without any financial means. Asha stops at the door and retorts that he is actually the one who is incapable of living on his own. Clutching her suitcase, she walks away from the estate without looking back, offering a final, definitive goodbye. Regis is left standing in the wake of her departure, his face pale with the realization that his life of privilege is crumbling. A hand rests on a manuscript filled with complex text, marking the transition to Asha's secret intellectual pursuits. The narrative shifts to focus on the inner workings of the royal family, emphasizing their rigid adherence to tradition. A man warns Asha that even she won't emerge unscathed from her current plans, yet she confirms that all preparations are complete. She asserts her dominance by telling him not to think this is the end of her ambitions. Rumors begin to swirl about the unheard-of scandal involving an illicit affair between the queen and her own guard knight. An official inquires if the love letter serving as evidence is truly verifiable. Asha is questioned if she understands the gravity of bringing such explosive information to the merit trading house. She offers a confident smile, acknowledging her connections and her intent to move forward with the plan. Asha looks toward the future, vowing to let the forbidden love of others burn as fuel for her own success. She flips through a book containing hidden knowledge about herbs and poisons, noting that it includes handwritten Japanese text. Despite repeated checks, Asha finds no clue as to who the original owner of the mysterious book might be. She muses that identifying the person who placed the book could provide her with a powerful new ally. The arrival of a client for her side work interrupts her thoughts, signaling a return to her professional duties. Duke Bruno greets Asha at her new home, noting that she is now officially a single woman. The Duke comments on her beauty, joking that he would pursue her himself if he were only a bit younger. He quickly adds that he loves his own wife dearly, finding even her wrinkles to be adorable. Asha presents the Duke with her newest writing piece, which he eagerly prepares to read. Upon reviewing her work, the Duke is astounded, declaring her to be an absolute genius. Asha graciously accepts his praise, confirming that her secret side job involves these creative efforts. She holds her quill with a satisfied expression, embracing her role as a writer who can shape narratives. A chart reveals the strategic network between Asha, Duke Bruno, and the merit trading house that facilitates her publications. The conversation turns back to the Queen's love letter as the Duke asks if she is absolutely certain of its authenticity. Asha places the envelope on the table and invites him to verify the original seal and contents himself. The Duke stares at the document in silence, the gravity of the scandal weighing heavily on the room. His fist clenches tight against the table as he processes the betrayal detailed in the letter. Furious, he growls that the Queen and the Knight have mocked the dignity of the entire kingdom. He reminds Asha that the Queen exists to support the nation and lives in comfort provided by the people's taxes. The Duke declares the affair to be an unforgivable transgression against the crown and the citizens. He asks Asha what her ultimate intention is in bringing this evidence to him. Asha firmly states that she wants the love letter delivered directly to His Majesty the King. She requests that the Duke grant her an official audience at the palace to handle the matter personally. The Duke understands the mission and instructs her to be ready to move by tomorrow. Asha expresses her gratitude but asks if he is truly okay with the potential fall of the royal house's reputation. He assures her that restoring trust is the job of the nobility and that she should not worry about the aftermath. Asha acknowledges his wisdom, realizing that his support is the key to her survival. She reminds herself that she cannot afford to be considerate if she wants to avoid the false charges that led to her execution in the past. The Duke accidentally knocks over his coffee in his agitation, offering a hasty apology for the mess. Asha rushes to help him, noting that his clothes are stained while he frets over the spilled liquid on her manuscript. He jokes that his wife will certainly scold him for the ruined outfit, showing a glimpse of his soft side. The Duke maintains a warm smile, reinforcing the bond of trust they have built. Asha smiles back, more determined than ever to change the tragic fate that was written for her. She reviews the plot of the novel from her previous life, titled Forbidden Love, which begins with the death of a prince. In the original story, Queen Saphra is deposed for her inability to bear a child, allowing the king to return to his concubine. However, the story then shows Saphra rousing the people by claiming mistreatment, eventually freeing her to be with Regez. The plot culminates in Saphra toppling the king just 6 months after the prince's mysterious death. Asha realizes that in that narrative, she was cast as the villain who stood in the way of the lovers. The story's happy ending features Saphra and Regez living together with a child who shares Regez's blue eyes. Asha notes that several details in the current world do not add up compared to the book she remembers. She observes that the real queen isn't being mistreated, as rumors say she still spends time with the king monthly. She wonders if the queen intended to incite the people by fabricating claims of neglect. Asha identifies the biggest inconsistency as the timeline regarding the queen's pregnancy. The book claimed she gave birth to Regez's child only 8 months after the prince's death and her own deposition. Asha realizes with a start that the prince's death, the trigger for the entire tragedy, is scheduled to happen in just 10 days. She recalls that Regez failed to come home one night exactly 2 months ago, a crucial clue to the affair's timeline. Her thoughts are interrupted by a rattle at the door, signaling the arrival of an envoy from Duke Bruno. Asha prepares her final move, knowing that the queen should currently be pregnant with Regez's child. The arrival is confirmed by the sound of the door opening as she prepares to meet her escort. The envoy is officially announced, marking the beginning of her dangerous journey to the palace. A mysterious and handsome knight stands before her, his presence commanding and professional. He introduces himself as Sheik of the Royal Knights, much to Asha's surprise. Asha is honored to be escorted by a member of the elite unit that sits directly under the crown's authority. Sheik asks if she is ready to depart for the palace, and Asha confirms with a resolute yes. As they travel, Sheik reveals he has been fully briefed on her plan to deliver the love letter to the king. He asks if she fears that her actions will bring shame and ruin to the royal house. Sheik admits that if the infidelity is true, he shares her anger, but he worries for her safety. He warns Asha that she is putting herself in extreme danger by challenging such powerful figures. The knight explains that while Regez might be removed as a guard, without clear proof, the queen will remain protected. He notes that a powerful ducal house backs the queen and can easily erase any inconvenient evidence. Sheik expresses doubt that they can even get the queen to a point where she is officially suspected of a crime. Asha looks at him, touched by his genuine concern and noting that he is a truly kind man. He shares that his family fell into ruin after his parents' deaths, leaving him with no backing and making him more worried for her. Asha realizes she cannot overturn the destined story alone and needs the evidence she carries. She touches her stomach, thinking of the proof of infidelity that the queen carries as the ultimate trump card. Asha reveals that she made meticulous preparations for this day, surprising Regez with her foresight. Thousands of extra editions flutter through the sky, carrying a truth that cannot be ignored. On this very day, Asha vows to change the world into one where evidence can no longer be buried by the powerful. Shockwaves ripple through the crowd as citizens read the scandalous headline regarding the Queen's affair with a royal guard. The streets erupt in a frenzy as newsboys distribute the extra edition to every corner of the kingdom. Confusion and disbelief grip the onlookers as they struggle to process the magnitude of the revelation. An opportunistic journalist adjusts his glasses, sensing the massive shift in power that is about to unfold. Citizens realize that with the evidence public, not even the king can hide the truth behind the palace walls. Regez stares in awe, calling Asha's ruthless strategy absolutely unbelievable. Asha's expression remains calm and resolute, though Regez finds her cold determination truly terrifying. Recognizing the stakes, Asha declares this the signal flare of her counterattack against the queen who oppressed her. Asha prepares to fight to the bitter end, signaling the start of a final, desperate confrontation. Episode begins with newsboys frantically shouting, "Extra edition," as the scandal spreads like wildfire. Within the palace, the queen and her guard share a secret, forbidden embrace, oblivious to the storm outside. Sapphira gazes longingly at Regez, her eyes filled with affection as she speaks his name. Sapphira admits she was worried when he left suddenly, confessing how much she missed him. Regez responds to her concern, but Sapphira moves closer, eager to prioritize their intimate moment. Sapphira pulls Regez into a deep kiss, claiming it is to make up for his absence the previous day. The two remain locked in a passionate hold as Sapphira continues to express her deep desire. Sapphira chuckles softly, reveling in the control she exerts over Regez's heart. While in his arms, Sapphira mockingly asks Regez to tell her more about his wife, Asha. Regez looks down at Sapphira, his expression shifting as he processes the mention of his former spouse. Sapphira sneers, demanding to hear about the foolish woman who continues to long for her beloved. Regez dismisses Asha entirely, stating he doesn't want to waste a single thought on that woman. The pair laughs cruelly at the thought of Asha expecting Regez to return to her bed tonight. Sapphira's face twists into a smirk as she labels Asha's unrequited love as nothing but pathetic. Sapphira mocks the situation further, asking Regez if he agrees that Asha is far too pitiful. Regez pulls Sapphira close, whispering that he loves her more than anyone else in the world. Years ago, Lady Sapphira was considered an unfortunate queen, bearing no children for 2 years after her marriage. She lost the king's favor entirely when a concubine provided the kingdom with an heir. Tradition dictates Sapphira spends 1 night a month with the king, though it is a loveless and hollow ritual. Regez originally wanted to save Sapphira from her deep sorrow and lonely life in the palace. Sapphira recalls how Asha once tried to threaten her just to force a divorce from Regez. She remains confident that Asha is the only one who will truly suffer if a divorce occurs. Sapphira tells Regez that she will find a way for them to be together permanently if he just waits a little longer. Their secret meeting is interrupted by a sudden, insistent knocking at the palace door. Minister Woog appears suddenly, demanding to know if the rumors about Regez's divorce are true. The minister grabs Regez, insisting he come along immediately to address the brewing scandal. Sapphira watches in shock, unable to understand how her perfect story is falling apart. The queen is paralyzed by the realization that she is no longer the protagonist of this narrative. Sapphira panics, wondering why her life is no longer following the script she envisioned. A copy of a love letter arrives at the scribes, providing the physical evidence needed to confirm the affair. The scribes receive the document early in the morning, setting the scandal into motion. Regez tries to maintain his composure, desperately seeking a way to contain the news inside the palace. Sweating under the pressure, Regez curses the hereditary nobles while dreading Asha's next move. A guard rushes in, shouting for the captain and warning him about that woman. He reports that the Merit Trading House is already spreading the shocking extra edition to the public. Captain Ludok of the Royal Guard is informed that His Majesty has summoned him immediately. King Gala's Sphinx of the Sphinx Kingdom confronts Ludok, demanding an explanation for Asha's claims. Ludok desperately begs the king not to be fooled by Asha's nonsense and falsehoods. The king silences Ludok with a single, piercing glare, demanding absolute obedience. Galas commands Ludok to answer his questions truthfully, forcing the captain to apologize for his outburst. The king asks Ludok point-blank if the queen appeared unfaithful in his eyes. Galas holds a copy of the love letter, reminding Ludok that a queen must be respected by the people. The king warns that defiling the queen is equivalent to trampling the trust of the entire nation. Galas demands that Ludok speak the full and absolute truth regarding the allegations. The king seizes Ludok by the throat, asking if he truly has no recollection of the love letter. Gasping for air, Ludok continues to deny any knowledge of the incriminating document. Ludok hopes his years of service will win the king's trust, accusing Asha of slandering the queen. Galas asks what punishment should befall someone who dares to disgrace the crown. Ludok eagerly suggests that torture followed by execution is the only fitting sentence. Ludok imagines a future where Asha is gone and he can continue loving Sapphira without fear. The king turns the tables, stating that if proof of the affair is found, that same punishment falls on Ludok. Ludok is left speechless, realizing the trap he has accidentally set for himself. Galas takes responsibility for not watching the palace closer and vows to seek the ultimate truth. The king orders that Ludok be placed under constant watch until the investigation is complete. With a final, cold command, Galas orders the captain to stand down and exit his presence. Meanwhile, an officer informs Lady Asha that her request for an audience with the king has been granted. Asha breathes a sigh of relief, noting that her plan is currently going smoothly. Asha credits the success of her infiltration to the assistance of His Excellency Bruno. Asha walks through the palace corridors, her presence commanding attention from the surrounding guards. In the background, Regez screams in fury that it is all lies, struggling against the knights holding him. Asha observes the chaos from a distance, satisfied that everything is proceeding as planned. She identifies Captain Wolf of the Royal Knights, a high-ranking official now involved in the case. The presence of the royal dagger confirms that the king is taking the situation with extreme gravity. Regez spots Asha and lunges at her, calling her a wretch in a fit of pure, unbridled rage. Captain Wolf intervenes instantly, slamming Regez to the floor with overwhelming force. Asha watches the pathetic display, her face a mask of calm as her former husband is restrained. Regez groans on the ground, weakly insisting on his innocence despite the evidence mounting against him. Wolf silences him, stating that His Majesty alone will decide his fate and ordering him to keep quiet. Regez continues to hiss at Asha, accusing her of forging the love letter to destroy him. Asha retorts that she can show him the real one, effectively silencing his desperate protests. The guards urge Asha to make haste, as the king is waiting to begin the formal audience. Asha adjusts her dress and prepares to enter the throne room, ready to face the monarch. She passes the defeated Regez one last time, her gaze steady and devoid of pity. Wolf warns Asha that His Majesty will judge her now, and a single mistake could result in her death. Asha simply nods, confirming she understands the lethal risks of the game she is playing. Wolf is impressed by her composure, noting that she is not easily scared by the threat of execution. Asha prepares to change the story of the kingdom forever as she steps into the light of the audience chamber. Wolf promises they will meet again after the audience, while Asha focuses on earning the king's trust. She approaches the throne, fully aware that her life depends on her ability to manipulate the king. The ultimatum is clear: prove the letter's authenticity or face beheading before the day is over. Asha's eyes sharpen with intent as she confirms she is fully prepared to defeat the queen. With a final wish for luck, Asha steps forward to deliver the killing. In a shocking revelation, Captain Wolf admits that he also remembers a past life in Japan. He presents the ornate book that triggered his memories, realizing it is identical to the one Asha possesses. A mysterious message written in Japanese instructed him to investigate the palace disposal site. Upon seeing that message, Wolf realized this world is actually following the plot of a novel he read in his past life titled Forbidden Love. He confesses that he began observing Asha after noticing she wasn't following the story's original script. The two stare at one another in stunned silence as the weight of their shared secret sinks in. Asha asks if he sent her the book, but Wolf reveals his own copy appeared out of nowhere 3 years ago. They realize a third person with memories of the past must be operating from the shadows. Wolf notices specific fold marks in Asha's medical text and asks if she was the one who made them. Asha is confused by the marks, noting there was never a poisoning incident in the original novel's plot. Recognizing the gravity of the situation, they decide to compare their notes and findings. Asha examines the poison section of the text, identifying ingredients like monkshood and kuroboshi. She finishes explaining everything that has happened to her over the last 3 years in this world. Asha mentions she held a job in her past life but cannot recall the specific details of her profession. Curious about his interests, Asha asks Captain Wolf how he ended up reading a romance novel like Forbidden Love. She points out that it's quite unusual to see a man reading a book specifically targeted at women. Wolf looks surprised by her question, while Asha waits expectantly for an explanation. Wolf reveals a dark truth: the author of Forbidden Love actually committed suicide. The tragedy made headlines because the author left no note, which piqued Wolf's curiosity about their work. He explains the novel was torn apart online for being different from the author's usual style, suggesting they were suffering. Wolf dismisses the past, noting that Asha has already successfully changed the course of the narrative. He shifts the focus back to the evidence at hand, asking for her opinion on a specific item. Asha looks closely at the small object, tentatively identifying it as a medicine packet. Wolf explains he found the item 2 months ago while following the Japanese message to the disposal site. He confirms her suspicion, revealing the packet actually contains a forbidden contraceptive. Asha is struck with a sudden realization as the pieces of the mystery begin to fit together. Wolf explains that while something had been bothering him, the discovery of the drug makes everything clear. He questions the suspicious timing of the Queen's sudden and unexpected pregnancy. Queen Sapphira married into the family 7 years ago but remained unable to conceive for the first 2 years. Wolf finds it unnatural that the Queen only conceived Regeza's child after 5 years of sharing the king's bed. He admits he originally assumed it was just timing, but the existence of contraceptive herbs changes his theory. The visual shifts to a somber memory of the royal couple in a distant, cold embrace. Wolf deduces that Queen Sapphira likely had no intention of ever bearing the king's child. He emphasizes that using contraception would be considered an act of treason against the royal house. In the original story, the king deposed Sapphira following the tragic death of Prince Dino. The narrative shows Sapphira leading a rebellion, turning the people against the king once she was free to be with Regez. Wolf notes the oddity that if the king died without an heir, someone outside the bloodline would inherit the crown. He suggests that Queen Sapphira is actively plotting to destroy the royal line from within. Wolf suspects the queen is not acting alone and has a secret accomplice helping her obtain the drugs. The presence of a mastermind plotting rebellion would explain all of the queen's strange behavior. He theorizes the queen sought help from this mastermind to continue her affair while avoiding a royal heir. Sapphira only discarded the medicine when she was with Regez, ensuring she only carried his child. Wolf declares that since no one knows they have the drug, this is their best chance to act. He vows to handle the investigation, hoping to trace the supply route back to the person behind the plot. Asha is overwhelmed by how much information they have extracted from a single discarded drug packet. Wolf warns her that their work is far from finished despite this significant breakthrough. Asha reflects on her 3-year struggle to destroy the novel's original, tragic narrative. She looks at the young Prince Dino, wondering if there is more she can do to save him. Lord Bruno interrupts her thoughts, praising her for a magnificent audience with the royals. Asha is startled by Bruno's sudden appearance while she is still with Captain Wolf. The young Prince Dino approaches Asha, cheerfully assuring her that he is feeling fine. The prince shyly asks Asha if she would be willing to read a story to him. He excitedly offers her his book and even asks if she would give him her autograph. Asha looks down at the boy, her expression softening with affection and resolve. She happily agrees to his request, bringing a bright, joyful smile to the young prince's face. Asha sits with the prince, fulfilling her promise to read him a story in the quiet hall. The story concludes with a happily ever after, and Dino thanks Asha with pure delight. Dino exclaims that he will treasure her autograph forever, calling it a true treasure. Asha tells the prince he should rest, warning him not to overdo it for today. The prince insists he is strong and healthy, smiling warmly at Asha as they talk. He explains that he wants to show everyone his strength so his mother won't have to cry anymore. Dino tells Asha not to worry about him, though his words clearly tug at her heartstrings. Asha asks him to tell her if things ever get too hard, pained by how much the young boy shoulders. She asks him to promise her, and the prince gives a bright, determined, okay. The meeting concludes as a maid leads the prince away, leaving Asha and Wolf to their grim task. Lord Shriek expresses his immense gratitude to Lady Asha, mentioning how his wife was absolutely delighted with her latest artistic creation. The Lord affectionately tells Asha she is like a daughter to him and promises she can always count on his support for anything she needs. Asha begins to speak, her voice filled with a sense of urgency as she prepares to make a significant request. With a sly smile, Lord Shriek proposes making their bond official by formally adopting her as his daughter. The Lord lets out a boisterous laugh while Asha suggests that, if this is to happen, she should meet his wife first. Asha and her companion offer a polite salute as they prepare to depart, concluding their audience for the day. Now alone with Captain Wolf, Asha's expression shifts to one of deep seriousness as she prepares to reveal a dark secret. Asha declares with unwavering certainty that she has finally discovered a way to prevent Prince Dino's predetermined death scenario. Wolf is taken aback, questioning the death scenario, since the public believes His Highness is merely suffering from a natural illness. Asha explains that in the original story, the Queen was supposed to have become pregnant 2 months ago, but the discovery of a contraceptive changed everything. She notes that while the Queen's pregnancy was kept a secret, the physical signs should have been obvious at least a month ago. The realization hits her as she recalls Lord Shuik's specific timeline, connecting the dots between the pregnancy and the prince's health. Asha reflects on the tragic timing of Prince Dino falling severely ill exactly 1 month ago, just as the pregnancy would have become apparent. She theorizes that the conspirators intend to eliminate the prince quickly to create the no-heir crisis they originally planned. Asha concludes that someone is deliberately poisoning the prince to make his death look like a natural progression of his supposed illness. A close-up of Wolf's shocked eyes reveals the horror of the situation as he realizes the folded pages in the book detail poisonous herbs. Asha steels her resolve, knowing that if the prince survives, she might be able to overturn the entire tragic destiny of the kingdom. A burst of light underscores her determination to tear down the established narrative and change everything from the ground up. She reaffirms her goal: if this truly isn't a natural illness, then she possesses the knowledge and power to save him. With a surge of authority, Asha prepares to take charge of the prince's personal guard to protect him from the unseen assassins. A visible shiver runs through Asha as she clutches the mysterious book, feeling the weight of the prophetic knowledge it contains. She gazes at the volume in wonder, questioning just how much this book can actually foresee about their dark future. Asha wonders why the sender of such significant, life-saving messages chooses to remain completely silent and anonymous. A sense of dread washes over her as she contemplates if they were ever meant to be saved at all in this recording of fate. Despite her fears, she holds the book tight, sensing there is still a hidden but to the story she has yet to uncover. A vision of a smaller hand reaching out for a larger one symbolizes the desperate hope of a child seeking salvation from a cruel end. Asha looks on as the young, innocent Prince Dino smiles brightly while being embraced, blissfully unaware of the plots against his life. A flash of a sinister, weeping face appears alongside the realization that the villains are acting out of a desperate need to escape condemnation. The perspective shifts to the gardener tending to dark lilies while a nobleman watches from the shadows of the palace. The queen stands alone in a grand, sunlit hall, her expression unreadable as she clutches her stomach in a moment of silent reflection. Asha vows with fierce intensity that she will be the one to finally uncover the truth behind the palace's web of lies. The scene cuts to House Ludok the day after the audience, where a frustrated man curses the worst possible outcome. Lord Regez seethes with rage, feeling the weight of many suspicious eyes on him and realizing His Majesty now suspects his loyalty. He tries to calm himself, reasoning that a simple love letter from Asia shouldn't be enough to prove his ultimate guilt. In his mind, he envisions the queen being disgraced and branded a criminal, insisting that she is the one who will meet a tragic end. Regez desperately tries to convince himself that everything will be fine, though his trembling hands betray his internal panic. He examines a letter delivered the previous day, only to find that the parchment appears to be completely blank. A familiar scent wafts from the paper, leading him to realize it was sent by Lady Sapphira, a woman fond of dangerous games. Regez holds the paper over a candle flame, the heat beginning to reveal the secrets hidden within the blank page. He realizes Sapphira must have been worried about the recent audience and utilized invisible ink to communicate her message. The hidden text begins to appear, addressing Lord Regez and explaining why she could not speak to him openly the day before. As Regez reads the first few lines, a look of confusion and growing dread crosses his face. The letter continues, with Sapphira expressing her confidence that the news she is about to share will make him very happy. Regez gasps in horror as his eyes scan the next part of the letter, the color draining from his face. The revelation is stark and undeniable. Sapphira's monthly bleeding is late, signaling a catastrophic shift in their plans. Regez lets out a strangled cry of shock as the full weight of the situation hits him like a physical blow. The letter confirms his worst nightmare. Sapphira claims she has been blessed with a child. She explicitly states that the child belongs to Lord Regez, a confession that shatters his remaining composure. Regez recoils in denial, insisting it must be a lie because he only slept with her under the impression she was unable to conceive. He panics, realizing that if she is pregnant now, he will be the primary target of the king's investigation and wrath. He clutches his head in agony, questioning how she can be so sure the child is his when she was still sleeping with the king. Regez collapses, lamenting that this child is the proof of love he never wanted and a complete deviation from his plans. He stares at the letter Sapphira wrote, realizing that his carefully constructed story is spiraling out of his control. A frantic Regez begs for it to be a lie, as they were supposed to be the ones who lived happily ever after through their schemes. He drops the letter into the fireplace, watching as the evidence of his treasonous affair is consumed by the flames. Standing before the hearth, he admits that he hasn't slept a wink, haunted by the consequences of Sapphira's pregnancy. The narrative flashes back to his first meeting with Asia Lirals, who greeted him with a polite and innocent smile. Regez reflects on Asia as the beautiful fiancée he was promised in a cold, calculated political marriage. Even back then, his heart belonged to Lady Sapphira, and he demanded that they become lovers who belonged only to each other. Asia looks at him with a cold, piercing gaze, the memory highlighting the emotional distance that always existed between them. Regez remembers sealing their pact with a kiss on her hand, a gesture of loyalty that has now become his undoing. He admits he kept his guard up and treated Asia like a disgusting woman because he feared betraying his secret love for Sapphira. Regez mocks Asia's perceived weakness, recalling how he looked down on her for being unable to stand on her own. A memory of Asia walking away with her luggage signifies the final break in their relationship, leaving Regez stunned and desperate. The vision ends with Regez collapsed on the floor in total defeat, reaching out for a vanishing shadow as his world crumbles. Infuriating thoughts swirl as a sense of intense frustration takes hold. The royal guard captain returns to the palace, apologizing to his subordinates for his absence before resuming his official duties. His men greet him with mischievous smirks, questioning him about a scandalous rumor regarding Her Majesty. Arriving at the royal guard captain's office, he is immediately confronted with the blame for a developing crisis. The captain reacts with pure shock, his face contorting as he shouts in disbelief at the news. He demands to know who could possibly be spreading such a ridiculous and unfounded rumor about the queen being pregnant. Distraught and on the verge of tears, he wonders who would dare to make such a devastating accusation against him. His subordinate is surprised he hasn't heard the news yet, confirming the weight of the situation. The truth is revealed. His own ex-wife made the accusation during a formal audience with the king. Shocked by his ex-wife Asia's betrayal, the captain agonizes over how she could possibly know so much. The palace is in a complete uproar as the rumor of Her Majesty's pregnancy spreads like wildfire. The captain's mind races, terrified of the depth of his ex-wife's knowledge. He stares into the distance, paralyzed by the question of what else she might actually know. He notices a strange book on his desk and asks his men if anyone touched his workspace the previous day. It turns out many high-ranking officials, including Duke Bruno and the king, were in the area looking for proof. Horrified to find a medical text on his desk, the captain realizes the extent to which he is being framed and dismissed his subordinates. The medical text contains forbidden information about an abortifacient, a dangerous drug used to terminate a pregnancy. The realization hits that someone is trying to obtain this illegal substance to hide a scandal. A message from Minister Ugg confirms the captain's worst fears. The minister is in on the plot and knows everything. The captain reads a monstrous note claiming that if the bastard child is born, it will mean the end of everything. A beautiful woman with a chilling smile appears, her presence masking a dark and hidden agenda. The captain stares at the desk, loathing the vile plan but considering it a necessary evil for his own survival. He justifies the dark path, telling himself it is only a last resort, just in case things go wrong. With a cold, determined expression, he resolves that this is his only option if he wants to survive the coming storm. 2 days after the audience, the scene shifts to Prince Dino's private chambers within the royal palace. Asia arrives at the young prince's side, announcing with a polite smile that she will be serving as his attendant starting today. Young Prince Dino greets Asia with pure joy, looking up from his book with a bright, welcoming smile. Asia offers a gentle good morning, beginning her new role within the heart of the royal family. A dark warning looms. There are those plotting to topple the royal family, and little Prince Dino may be their primary target. Asia maintains a vigilant look, her eyes sharp as she senses the invisible dangers surrounding the boy. Despite only telling the king her suspicions, Asia finds herself officially assigned to the prince's guard detail. Determined and focused, she vows to find whatever is threatening the prince's life and stop the assassination attempt. Dino enthusiastically explains he is studying hard to be a good king, though he is reading surprisingly difficult books. Asia notes the textbooks were delivered by the Merit Trading House, a place she is familiar with from her own work. The king's concubine, Tizia, enters the room to announce it is time for the prince's daily lessons. The group bows respectfully as Tizia approaches, with the prince obediently acknowledging his mother's presence. A book is opened on the table, its pages filled with dense text as the lesson begins. Prince Dino exerts himself, carrying a heavy stack of books with a look of great effort and a wide smile. The prince and Tizia sit across from each other at the desk, beginning their quiet study session. A hand reaches out toward the prince's desk, guiding the young boy through his royal education. Tizia praises Dino for his hard work and declares it's time for a break, offering him a reward for his efforts. With a kind gesture, Tizia invites the guards to join them and have some snacks as well. The guards are hesitant, asking if she is sure they should participate after everything that has happened. Asia reflects on how she previously dragged the royal name through the mud, yet Lord Bruno has shared so much with her. Asia touches the prince's books, hearing how much joy the boy finds in reading the stories she once wrote. She is moved by the realization that someone who writes such beautiful stories could never be truly evil. A flashback shows a younger Asia working tirelessly at her desk by lamplight, pouring her heart into her writing. Prince Dino happily munches on a snack, unaware that the stories he loves are the very thing connecting him to his new attendant. Asia realizes with profound emotion that the stories she wrote in the past are the ones protecting her now. Overwhelmed with a sense of peace, she feels deeply grateful for the unexpected turn her life has taken. Tizia notices Dino's hands are covered in ink again, while Asia watches on, feeling a moment of genuine happiness. Dino admits the ink is hard to wash off as Tizia gently takes his hands in hers. The palace staff maintains a strict protocol, using silver tableware to test every meal for potential poison. Asia observes the thorough safety measures, noting that it would be nearly impossible for an assassin to slip poison into the food. During a break in the garden, Dino excitedly asks his mommy to make flower crowns with him. Asia admires the lovely garden, learning that Minister Ugg is personally in charge of maintaining it for the king. It is revealed that the minister is an expert on plants and personally tends to the garden despite his busy schedule. Suddenly, a violent coughing fit breaks the peaceful atmosphere, signaling a sudden medical emergency. Prince Dino collapses, clutching his chest and coughing uncontrollably as the onlookers scream in panic. The prince is rushed away as voices cry out for a doctor, the sudden illness throwing the palace into chaos. Prince Dino lies unconscious in a large bed, his condition appearing critical as the palace enters a state of mourning. The guards are certain it must be poison, shocked by how quickly the prince's condition crashed. Asia suspects the poison was administered during lunch, though she saw nothing strange during the meal. The young prince remains in a deep, feverish sleep, fighting for his life against an unknown toxin. The following day, a sudden realization strikes as the investigation into the poisoning begins. Asia returns to the young Prince Dino's side, warmly welcomed as she asks to stay by him for a while. The weary-eyed Asha watches over Prince Dino as he enthusiastically prepares to begin his heavy study session for the day. Tizia observes Dino putting on a brave face for his mother's sake before the boy is treated to a well-deserved snack for his hard work. A close-up reveals Dino's sudden exhaustion, his eyes darkening with physical strain and heavy bags as his health begins to waver. Tizia's expression turns grim as she realizes that the shadow of death is undeniably closing in on the young prince. Clenching her hand in determination, Tizia vows to hurry and uncover the true cause of Dino's deteriorating condition. Asia and Tizia decide to secretly investigate His Highness's personal belongings to find any hidden threats. Tizia reasons that the poison might not be in the food, but rather in something Dino frequently touches. Narrowing her eyes, Tizia inspects a book with intense focus, searching for any subtle sign of foul play. Tizia notes the book uses first-class paper and perfect printing, yet she searches for a single flaw in the ink. Noticing dark, stubborn stains on the prince's fingertips, Tizia demands to know exactly where that suspicious ink originated. An abstract, jagged visual effect underscores the sharp realization and tension building within the room. Disaster strikes as Prince Dino collapses to the floor in agony, prompting panicked cries for help from those nearby. A chapter title card marks a dark turning point as the prince lies unconscious and gasping for air. Royal physicians frantically discuss the mystery illness, ordering strict bed rest while struggling to determine the cause. Inside the Royal Guard office, a high-ranking officer confirms his suspicions regarding the strange ink found on Dino's hands. Tizia agrees with the officer's assessment, noting that the prince was frequently handling his reference books. The investigation hits a snag as they wonder how poison was planted in books used safely for 6 months without affecting Tizia. Tizia focuses on a specific textbook, recalling the stubborn ink stains that refuse to wash off the prince's fingers. Recalling a specific folded page in a medical text, Tizia suspects Asha might have left a vital clue. A dramatic close-up on an eye signifies the moment of absolute clarity and the discovery of a hidden truth. Tizia identifies the toxin as eggberry, a ban dye that is highly toxic and nearly impossible to wash off the skin. Tizia urgently informs Sir Wolf that she has figured it out and must get back to the prince immediately. Racing through the halls, Tizia realizes the folded page was a deliberate sign pointing to the cause of the prince's suffering. Tizia and Sir Wolf are suddenly intercepted by a towering figure, demanding to know what they are doing in such a restricted area. The narrative reflects on a commoner who rose to the rank of minister and became a loyal retainer to His Majesty. The man is identified as Minister Woog, who stands with a stern and imposing presence. Asha pleads with the guards to let her through, claiming she has an urgent message for Lady Tizia. Minister Woog coldly blocks the way, stating he cannot have people wandering the palace so freely. The minister questions the nature of this urgent business with a skeptical and condescending tone. Despite the pressure, the urgency remains clear. Prince Dino's life is hanging in the balance. The bombshell is dropped as the claim arises that Prince Dino is currently being poisoned. Minister Woog reacts with fury, accusing them of spreading treasonous lies within the palace walls. A mocking laugh echoes as a new figure taunts Woog for having become such a big shot. Duke Bruno intervenes, reminding everyone that Asha is under surveillance and must have her freedom respected. The Duke firmly states he cannot allow someone under such high-level surveillance to approach the royal heir. Duke Bruno offers a compromise, declaring that he shall be the one to hear Asha's testimony himself. The Duke listens as the shocking claim is repeated: the prince is being systematically poisoned. Taking full control of the situation, Duke Bruno announces that he will personally supervise Asha. Minister Woog is left speechless as the Duke vows to take full responsibility should Asha be proven wrong. Woog looks on in disbelief, silently questioning if the Duke has completely lost his mind. The Duke muses that if this is a lie to deceive the palace, it is an incredibly impressive and long-planned one. In a display of extreme conviction, the Duke declares he would offer up his own head if he is mistaken. Grabbing Woog by the collar, The Duke fiercely warns him not to look down on Asha just because she is a girl. The confrontation leaves the room in a stunned, silent deadlock as the Duke's power play takes effect. Minister Woog remains defiant, stating he cannot possibly condone such a reckless breach of protocol. The Duke reminds Woog of their past, asking if he has forgotten who took care of him more than anyone else back then. With a dark, insincere prayer, a character hopes that nothing happens as the political tension reaches a boiling point. The group walks away, the sound of their footsteps echoing through the palace as they move toward the prince. The Duke dismisses the minister's concerns, turning his attention to the young lady to continue the investigation. Tizia is caught off guard when the Duke suddenly asks if she is getting along with a man named Sheik. To her shock, the Duke casually reveals that the boy, Sheik, is actually his own son. He boasts that his son is a handsome, sharp-witted swordsman who inherited all of his best looks. In a bizarre turn, the Duke suggests that if Tizia feels she owes him, she should arrange a matchmaking session. He even invites her to meet his wife, shifting the mood from life-or-death drama to unexpected social pressure. Tizia and Sir Wolf stand completely frozen and surprised by the Duke's sudden pivot to family matters. Snapping back to reality, the Duke gestures forward, reminding Tizia that they are supposed to be in a hurry. Tizia refocuses her mind on the mission, knowing she must save His Highness from the toxin immediately. They must inform the royal physician of the poison at once, marveling at how the Duke completely outmaneuvered the minister. The group moves forward, bolstered by the Duke's surprising and formidable show of trust. A lingering thought haunts Tizia about the 3 whole years of prep mentioned by the Duke. Tizia realizes she began her own planning 3 years ago, right when she first learned of the Queen's affair. A chilling suspicion arises as Tizia wonders if she ever actually told Duke Bruno about those specific plans. Recalling his natural reaction to the Queen's infidelity, Tizia finds it harder to read the Duke's true motives. Tizia questions if the Duke himself is the mysterious benefactor who has been leaving messages inside the medical books. Clenching her fist in a moment of intense denial, the character's internal resolve hardens as she flatly rejects the unfolding tragedy. Desperately seeking a reason for the current crisis, the silent question of why hangs heavy in the air. Asha is urged to snap out of her daze because there is no time to lose and they must move immediately. Paralyzed by uncertainty and the weight of the situation, she admits she simply does not know what to do. Pushing aside her doubts, she declares that saving Prince Dino's life is the only priority that matters right now. Princess Tizia is called out in a moment of frantic realization as the gravity of the situation escalates. Overwhelmed by emotion and gasping in shock, she watches as tears well up in her eyes. The devastating news is delivered that Dino has lost consciousness, prompting a desperate plea for anyone to help. With a steadying hand, a promise is made that everything will be okay and they will surely find a way to save His Highness. The breakthrough occurs as someone shouts that eggberry poison is the cause of the illness and demands an antidote. Orders are barked to bring the prince's reference book immediately, leaving others in a state of confusion. The horrifying realization of poison begins to sink in, causing a moment of stunned silence. The focus shifts to Prince Dino's reference book as the key to understanding the source of the toxin. Asha points out the chilling evidence that the book's very bookmark has been soaked in deadly poison. The investigation reveals that a dye made from toxic eggberries was likely used to lace the bookmark. Recalling a crucial detail, it is noted that His Highness had mysterious black stains on his hands. Upon closer inspection, she realizes that while the ink seemed like a printing error, it showed no signs of smudging. The evidence is clear as she points out that the black stains are located only along the inner spine of the book. It is deduced that every time the prince studied, he would be the only one consistently touching the poisoned bookmark. Tizia argues that Dino always washed his hands before eating, suggesting the poison shouldn't have been ingested. However, a hidden habit or small detail about His Highness is about to reveal how the poison entered his system. The tragic truth begins to surface, leading to a moment of no way as the pieces of the puzzle fall into place. A close-up of a gloved hand holding the book emphasizes the danger hidden within the mundane object. The horrifying conclusion is reached that small amounts of poison were ingested every time he ate after studying. The shock of the revelation is visible in her eyes as the magnitude of the crime becomes clear. Overcome with guilt, she collapses while sobbing that she is the one who made Dino suffer. The denial of her self-blame begins as another character prepares to correct her devastating misconception. Asha fiercely interrupts the guilt, shouting that she is wrong and it is not her fault. The act is denounced as a despicable crime that cruelly exploited the sacred love between a parent and child. Asha reassures her that Prince Dino would never want her to feel responsible for this calculated attack. Deep regret lingers as she laments that if only she had noticed the signs sooner, things might be different. Beside his bed, a desperate prayer is offered for His Highness to hold on and survive the night. Visions of a brighter future appear as she promises that once he recovers, they will read many books together. The emotional plea reaches its peak with a final, heart-wrenching request for him to wake up. A soft, ethereal light surrounds the scene of the sleeping prince, representing a glimmer of hope. The somber silence is broken by a sudden knock 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 at the door as someone calls out for Asha. The messenger arrives with urgent news regarding the current state of Prince Dino. Tizia watches over the prince as the door opens, her face reflecting a mix of exhaustion and hope. Dino finally stirs and opens his eyes, looking up in confusion as he weakly calls out for Miss Ash. The relief is instantaneous as she cries out, "Dino," and thanks goodness that he has returned to them. The intensity of her relief is so great that she can't stop the fresh wave of tears from falling. She explains through her sobs that she is simply so happy and relieved that he is finally safe. The young prince looks on with a soft smile, innocently asking if it is okay if he cries too. A tender moment passes between them as the prince's vulnerability and strength are both on display. Dino admits he was trying to be strong because he is going to be king and didn't want to make everyone worry. The small boy confesses that he had been holding in his emotions and pain this entire time. He asks for permission to finally let go and stop holding back his true feelings. Wailing loudly, the prince finally breaks down, confessing how much it really hurt and how scared he was. Asha watches him with a bittersweet smile, her own tears mirroring the release of the boy's pent-up terror. The two find comfort in a warm embrace as the weight of the ordeal finally begins to lift. Asha speaks to her companion, expressing her profound happiness and relief that the antidote arrived in time. It is noted that today was intended to be the fated day, a dark turning point that has now been subverted. The narration reflects that this was the day Prince Dino was supposed to die and a forbidden love was meant to begin. Because his death has been successfully averted, the entire trajectory of the story has been irrevocably changed. Asha reveals she had the Merit Trading House prepare a special edition report regarding the attempt on his life. The plan is met with caution as others warn that it is too dangerous and they lack full proof. Asha remains undeterred, stating she is well aware of the danger but refuses to back down. She declares that she cannot allow monsters who exploited a parent's love to murder a child to roam free. The public revelation of this crime is predicted to cause a massive uproar and ignite the public's fury. The scandal will create an uproar that leaves the queen and the mastermind with absolutely nowhere left to run. With fierce determination, Asha announces that it is finally their turn to expose the culprit's crimes. The chapter closes with her powerful declaration, "My story begins."